What do we got? Just looking for a nice one. Yeah, I think we might have to go for a apple leaf or something like that. Oh, here we go. We'll go for a bit of a guari instead then. But yeah, the broadleafs. Oh, not even. This looks like a spike thorn. A spike thorn will work. I'll get one from this side. Let me just grab that. So, don't know. I did see. So there we go. You get the spines. Modified branches on the tree there. Now the acacias still have thorns, but they are actually modified leaves, and they're white in colour. So if I do find a branch, I'll hopefully try and show you that. But this is what we call a broadleaf tree. So it's, yeah, a broadleaf. Now I did actually pick up a weeping wattle yesterday, so I can show you the alternate. So it's a compound leaf. Now it's actually closed, and this is what the leaves do during the winter time. They actually close the leaflets up to try and trap any moisture, and it is an adaptation for the winter time. But I've just, if I get out the sun, I'm just trying to open up part of it. So this is the alternate. This is a compound leaf. So the acacias kind of show that it's quite sweet soils. The broadleaf trees kind of show that it's a sour soil, so it's all to do with the pH of the soil. So we've got what's known as a mixed bushveld here. Oh, where'd he go? Come here. Sorry, I've just dropped my leaf on the floor. So we've got a mixed bushveld. So we have acacias and broadleaf trees. So we have a mixture of soils in the area as well. So animals will eat obviously different leaves and different parts of the tree as well. So the elephant's eating the bark, which is not as nutritious as the leaves, but their digestive system allows them to eat parts of the tree that aren't as nutritious, but they do have to take in quite a lot of that. Whereas some of the other animals have to eat high nutritious leaves, and that tends to be the acacias, because they have a special adaptation that allows them to, on their roots, they actually have this bacteria that allows them to fix nitrogen, and they're called legumes. So peas and things like that as well, all part of the same family. And most plants have to rely on the bacteria in the soil to fix nitrogen, and that's a really important substance for growing. And as I say, the acacias actually have the bacteria on their roots, so they can get the nitrogen straight away, and that's what makes it so nutritious and so important to eat. And that's why the acacias actually have to have the thorns to protect their leaves, because animals really like to eat those because they're a really good source of nutrients. So broadleaf trees, compound leaves, but I'll see if I can find you an acacia as well. But I believe Tristan might have something for you. I didn't catch what he has, but enjoy, and we'll keep searching for those acacias and other animals as well.
We have indeed. Happy World Lion Day, everybody. How awesome is this? We've got the Nkuhuma Pride, all of them perched on top of a termite mound. Super happy that we managed to find them for all of you, and that we haven't wasted your last 3 drives now, just tracking for nothing. So there is the beautiful Nkuhuma Cubs. They're getting so big now, I don't know if we can call them cubs anymore. They certainly are getting large. That's one of them, and they're busy staring at the elephants, which are slowly making their way towards us now. The elephants are not too far from where we are, and I was saying to Senzo, I really hope if they cross this Vulture's Nest Road that they cross where we are now, because it's a nice sandy section that I can be able to see what's going on. So super happy that we were able to find their tracks and then lead them straight to the termite mound, which is now a perfect place to have a rest. They do look as though they need a meal, though. They're looking a little bit on the skinny side. You can see as one of the cubs gets up there, they're not exactly full in any way, but they are still looking healthy. The cubs are not showing any more signs of that mange from what I can see, so they're over that completely, which is fantastic news. But shame, it seems that little cub is a bit cold because it's now cuddling up to one of the mothers, trying to stay nice and warm. So best place that we could have possibly found them is on top here. So far can only see one lioness. Senzo said to me he saw some more around the termite mound, so I think the rest of the pride is lying on the other side. We'll go around there just now. Unfortunately, this particular termite mound has got about 4 million bushes on it, and so difficult to see all of them. What I might do is just go around the trees slightly, but isn't that a beautiful setting for a pride of lions to be lying on top? I think so. It's a wonderful way to spend our morning. Right, Senzo, let's see if I can't get us into a little bit of a different position where we can actually see these lions a little bit better. Right, I'm just going to get ourselves into a slightly better position and see that we can see the elephants coming too in case they decide to come storming at the lions. And while we do that, let's go back to Tara with her bird quiz.
Oh, well, you know what? I totally missed that Tristan has actually found his cats. He's been tracking those cats for a day and a half, so I'm so chuffed. And on Lion Day as well. What more can you ask for? Absolutely fantastic. So well done, Tristan. Definitely well deserved. So it'll be exciting to hear which pride it is, or which lions. So we do have answers to the bird quiz, so see how well you guys have recognised the bird. Rosowski, some form of swallow, not quite, but at least you went for a swallow, not a swift. The swift cannot perch like the swallows can. It's all to do with their foot structure. The swifts have a sort of a fused foot, so they can't grasp, they can't perch. Ah, Tally Ho and Mrs. Z and many more of you. Well done. It was a fork-tailed drongo. My favourite bird, because they're just so cheeky. With a fork in the tail, so when it's sat like that, hopefully you could see that deep groove. Red eye, very much a fork-tailed drongo, and completely black feathers. Beautiful bird. So driving into the sun now, driving north. Oh, we've got a community nest. Have we? No. Tropical tent web spider. That's quite pretty with the sun glistening on it. Well, actually, I think Tristan's still repositioning, so I might have time to actually tell you a little bit about this quickly. And which is really nice. Hopefully you can can you see it's almost like a big top in the centre of most of the threads that you can see. So that's where it gets its name from, is the tropical tent web spider. So it's got the main part of the web inside, and any insect that's walking or flying can get tripped by these threads, and it will land into the centre of the web, and then the spider will be able to actually pull it through the web and eat it. Quite a beautiful thing. And there we go, we've gotten ourselves an acacia with these modified leaves here as well, so you can see they're white. So a dead acacia. So, two birds with one stone. So hopefully we will find an acacia that's actually alive, but that's lovely to see. And say with the sunlight on the threads, hopefully that came up really nicely for you. Now, I thought it was actually a community nest spider. which I'll see if I can actually try and find one for you at some stage. But I think Tristan has managed to reposition himself to get a nice view of those lions, so enjoy everybody. I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful sight.
It is. We've managed to reposition and we can now see all of them beautifully on top of this mound with the morning light bathing them. They watching, well, one of the adults is watching the ellies in the distance. I can just hear the elephants. I can't see them at the moment, but they are slowly heading in our direction. So I'm sure pandemonium will ensue if those elephants do come this way, because they, like I said earlier, are not very fond of lions. Although if the lions are clever and they just stay still on top of the mound, you might find the ellies will pass without them having to worry about it. But isn't this cool? Look at them all spread out. You can see another one of the adult females is here on the bottom right, and then I think there's another 2 on the back side that I can see. So it looks like the whole pride is here. It looks like all 5 lionesses and 6 cubs are around. I will go around just now just to confirm the number of cubs, but I know 6 cubs were seen yesterday, so they are doing well. They're doing just fine, and it's so good to see them. It's been a long time since I've had any time with the Nkuhumas, and they've grown. These little cubs, like I say, are starting to not look like cubs anymore. They're starting to look like adults. You can see there's one of the cubs there. And faces have gotten a lot more elongated, and they're starting to really fill out. And look at the size of the paws, and the teeth even are getting rather large now too. Shamsan, you're asking if the male cub will be starting to show his mohawk mane soon. Shamsan should slowly start to come through. You'll find it a lot more around his cheek areas, so just behind the ears and down onto his chest will show a lot quicker than what will show on the top of his head. But generally the mohawk, you start to really see it when they get closer towards 2 years old. So he's still got a bit of time to go before he gets that big mohawk that develops, but he will start to show a thickening of fur around his chest and his ears already, and we'll start to notice him quite clearly amongst the cubs in the next few months as that mane starts to develop. But for now, the mohawk I don't think will be out just yet. It normally, like I say, goes up to about 2 years before that mohawk is really quite developed. But you can see every now and then they're just glancing their way up the road. I wonder if they'll move before the elephants get close. The other interesting thing is that there's a lot of oxpeckers around us, and they're calling constantly, and oxpeckers are indicative of animals, and certain animals, not elephants, will be around. So I don't know if there's impalas or nyala or kudu or something that's also close by, because the oxpeckers keep bouncing from this tall tree that the lions are under to the left of us, and so I don't know if maybe there's a prey item that also might be moving in this area. Ultimately, oxpeckers also will be on things like buffalo, and so there could be some sort of animal that might be coming here that they're also interested in. I'm pretty sure she's watching the elephants at the moment, but the oxpeckers is a good sign, and I wonder if something did come, they look hungry enough that they might partake in a hunt, even if it is middle of the morning. But look at those eyes. Is that not beautiful? Great work, Senzo. I like that shot. That is very pretty. Yes, you are beautiful. Now, that's the female that seems to be getting that glaucoma in her right eye. She's the one that's getting that sort of opaqueness and that different colored eye to the other one. Now, you can see this other female has popped up her head as well, so she's also watching what's going on. So she's now become quite alert. And who are you? There we go. So she's just watching, and that's the spotted-nosed female that we've got there. You can see all the little black spots on the front, and these are all things that I've learnt over the time with the Nkuhumas, and thanks to a lot of you that let us know how to identify them. Lions are a little harder to identify for me personally than what the leopards are, but it's nice to know that you guys can help us and see what's going on. Oh, they are beautiful, this pride. Like I say, it's always so good to see these guys and to be with them again. It really has been a long time for me. I know a lot of the other guys have been seeing them fairly regularly, but it's been a while since I've had a long period of time with the Nkuhuma Pride. In fact, I actually can't even remember the last time I saw them. I think it was that sighting where they were in the mist. Maybe I've seen them since then, but either that or the zebra kill. That's probably the last time that I saw them, which is at least 2 months ago. So nice to actually catch up with all of them again. No sign of any males, though. There was no tracks of males in amongst the pride as well, so if anyone was wondering if any of the Birmingham boys are around. Yesterday, I know a Birmingham boy was in Simambili. The rest of them, I'm not quite sure where they've been. I know one was mating at some stage with the breakaway Mangens, or the Kumbala Pride, I think they're called, down in Mala Mala. So it seems as though one has been busy that side, and then the two that we had on Djuma the other day, they both went north into Manyaleti, so I think that accounts for all four of them at this stage. But definitely no males with the pride at the moment. It's also interesting that we didn't hear any sounds for these lions during the night. I would have thought we might have heard some vocalizing from them, but they seem to keep quite quiet. White Lady Owen, you want to know if this lioness is going to lose her sight in that right eye. I would imagine she might. If it becomes a proper glaucoma and it glazes over completely, then yes, she's probably going to lose her sight. I would imagine her sight is already being affected by it, but that's not to say that she won't be able to survive or it's going to hinder her, because I've known a number of different individuals with one eye, so leopard, lions, and they've all survived just fine. Safari is a perfect example of that. Safari, is Karula's mother, and she lived to the ripe old age of 19 and a half, so she was old when she died, and she had one eye for the last 6 years. And it just shows you that they'll use other senses a lot more. They might not have that depth perception quite right, but they'll use their sense of hearing and smell and their whiskers and the other eye to be able to determine what goes on and still be successful. Also, she is part of a pride, so there's a number of other females that are going to help in the hunting, so she's going to be just fine. But I don't think that eye, she'll be able to see out of it for some time. Well, she definitely is going to stop seeing out of it at some point. You can see, like I said, it's getting milky towards the edges, and that will eventually go all the way across, and it will become completely white if it is a glaucoma. I've seen it also in the Hilda's Rock female down in the south. She had one eye, and she also lived to an old age and managed to raise cubs, and so it's not too much of a hindrance for these cats. They get by even if they do have that disability. It's much like short trunk. Because wildlife, they don't know any better. They just have this instinct to survive. Even if they do have some sort of disability, you'll find that they will work around it and they'll still find a way to survive. And that's what's so amazing about wildlife, is just how resilient it is to what's going on around them, and to be able to survive in a system like this that is so harsh on them is really quite something. Sierra, you wondering what the cubs' mini roars would sound like? I know, I'm also quite intrigued to hear them roar. I would really like to see this whole pride roaring, and they, funny enough, like I was saying just now, they don't tend to make too much noise. I actually can't remember the last time I heard the Nkuhumas roaring, or I don't think I've ever actually even seen them roaring while they've had the cubs. So I'm sure they do, and I'm sure when we get a male that might be with them and starts to roar, the rest of the pride might carry on roaring too, and we'll be able to hear the cubs. But I think their roars will start to be quite deep now. When they were little cubs, I'm sure they just squeaked, and seeing a tiny cub roaring is, well, trying to roar is probably one of the best things in the world, but these guys, I think, will sound a little bit deeper now. Whether they roar is also a question. They might just watch the females and be like, what is this? I don't really know what they're doing. It would be interesting, though. Hopefully this evening. Maybe we'll get lucky this evening and they will do it for us. It is World Lion Day after all, and we would love to hear their voices on World Lion Day, because there is nothing better in this world than a lion's roar at close proximity like this. It is just something that goes straight into you and cuts into the deepest part of your being. So maybe this afternoon we'll get lucky. Here comes one that's emerging. Is that the little male? Looks like it might be him. There's a bit of a thickening of fur on his chest, which is what we were talking about earlier. Maybe not. Difficult to say, though. They've obviously had a fairly long night, because everybody looks very lethargic and very tired at this stage. Heads are all down, and they seem to have walked quite far, because, as I was saying, they were left going east yesterday, which means they were heading towards the Kruger, and then they turned and came back towards this area. So they obviously moved a lot, and I see one is having a grassy breakfast this morning. Crazy Critter, you're wondering if lions have ever used a termite mound as a den? Yes, most certainly. They sometimes will use termite mounds as dens, same as leopards, but generally they like to use more thicker, denser areas. Things about termite mounds is they're often quite exposed, and that means that birds of prey and snakes and varying other predators can find the cubs. But it has happened. I've seen it personally that they use it every now and then, particularly if it's a termite mound on the edge of a drainage line. Then you'll find where it's dense and thick, then the cubs can go in there and into any root structures around there. So that they do use them from time to time, definitely. This situation that they're doing now is more just a point of vantage. They can sit up there, they can see what's going on around them. They're also getting a nice little bit of sun, so it's a perfect place to rest. As the sun gets up and it starts to get a little bit hotter, you'll find they're going to come down from that mound and find some shade somewhere. But it's very common to find leopard and lion on top of mounds in the early morning and late afternoon as they scan their environment and check what's going around, and they're able to then also sun themselves a little bit, particularly on cold mornings like we had this morning. It is a very commonplace thing to look for them, and that's why if you're ever out on safari, it's important that you pay attention to all of the termite mounds, because it's great place to spot the cats. They often are on termite mounds, like I say, particularly in the early morning and late afternoon, where they can get vantage points or at least get some sun to warm up in the morning time. Now, the reason why that lion is eating the grass, it is a common thing for lions to eat grass. It's not uncommon at all. It just helps with the cleaning out of their digestive system. So they often do eat grass. Cats do it, dogs do it. And it's just a way of getting the digestive system in better shape. And so it's not anything to worry about. He's not turned vegetarian, this lion. He is still very much a meat eater, or she, should I say. I don't know which one it is. But it is just practice that they do every now and then. It also looks as though it's just a playful bit of sort of chewing at this stage. There's not actually breaking any of that grass off. It's more just licking and biting at the grass itself. But its sibling is completely out for the count. She's having a massive Thursday morning nap, as is the rest of the pride, and it seems as though only one of them is awake. Now, I don't know where our Ellies have gone. I can't hear them anymore. It seems as though they may have turned off a little bit and are no longer heading towards where we are, and that's maybe why everybody's gone back to sleep again and is not too concerned about what's going on around them. John, are you asking if the adult elephants, so those big females in there, would charge a pride of lions like this to protect the young ones? Most certainly. Elephants do not like lions at all, and if those elephants that we just saw came along now, they would most certainly chase these lions off this mound just to prove a point and to dominate them. This whole thing and notion of lions being king of the jungle and dominating all other species out here is actually a bit of a fallacy. The elephants are the most dominant of all the animals out here, and they will most certainly chase away any lions if they see them close to their herd, because they know lions can be a threat to their young ones, and they're not going to take that risk, and they're going to prove to the lions that we are bigger and stronger, and therefore we're going to push you away. There we go. There's one of the other adult females has also just popped her head up now, so that's 3 adults that we can see. There you go. She's just having a bit of a grooming session there. Now, I don't know which one that is. I wonder if Amber Eyes is not lurking somewhere on the other side of the mound here. She's such a special character as well. Sounds like the Ellies are still in a similar place. I've just heard somebody give an update now. So they are still just north of us. I imagine they're just slowly feeding their way down this way. Now, we're going to sit with our Nkuhuma Pride and just enjoy the morning warmth and their company. And while we do that, let's go across to Tara and see how she's enjoying the sunshine and the warmth.
Yeah, a little bit quiet on the west side, so I thought we would have a check-in on the hyena den, maybe see if we can catch up with those elephants. Which would be quite nice to see. Haven't seen elephants for a few days, but yeah, very quiet. We thought we might have had some dog tracks, but it didn't really. There was only one, and I think it was a combination of tracks. So I was getting excited, and then when I looked closer, it was like, as I say, a combination of tracks that made it look like a dog track from the vehicle. Whew. Getting all excited. That would have been lovely to see. So we're heading south along Gallagher shortcut. The hyena den's going to be coming up shortly on the left. Let's see if we've got anybody at home, maybe Nkuhuma and her mother Ribbon. Be nice to see how they're getting on this morning. I don't think there's any other dens active that we know about at this stage. There's probably dens that are active that we don't know about. But we do keep checking them periodically, so we have checked the one on Philemon's cut line recently. There was some tracks heading down there a couple of days ago, so it might be worth us checking in on there again if we go past, just to make sure they haven't moved somebody in there. Be quite nice. But we were actually talking about tracking and how disappointing it can get if you've been putting a lot of it into just out of reach, or you don't actually manage to finish it off and find the animal. But I think it's probably one of the most rewarding things when you do actually find the animal that you've been tracking. So very well done to Tristan, and as I say, I'm so glad he actually did manage to find them for you. So it sounds like it's the Nkuhuma Pride, which we managed to catch up with. And actually, if you haven't seen it, please Google or on YouTube the lioness being woken up by Mighty Mouse, which was one of the Nkuhuma females. She was sleeping in the middle of the road, and a mouse literally just ran straight into her, woke her up, and by the time she actually woke up, she had no idea what just happened. And she kind of glared at us as if to say, "Why did you wake me up?" It was like, "No, it wasn't us." But the mouse backtracked very rapidly. So we're just turning into where the hyena den is now. So generally speaking, hyenas would have found somewhere to sleep by now. Maybe a hole in a termite mound, in the drainage line. Although during the winter time they can also be still scavenging this time of day, and it's slightly cooler. But as I say, generally speaking, finding somewhere to rest after a hard night's scavenge. So we're slowly approaching. Oh, I see somebody. Oh, and I see. So we've actually got 2 adult hyenas here. I'm just gonna try and turn to the left a little bit, just so that we're not going up to her in a threatening way, but hopefully we can see her past the grass there. So having breakfast. How lovely. Now, if she had a second cub, the second one would lie so she was between the legs, because they have only one pair of mammary glands. But unfortunately the competition between cubs is very, very high, and it's believed that sometimes it's that high that they will actually commit siblicide. So one sibling will kill the other sibling. So generally speaking, if there were 2 cubs and one died, it's likely that the one that survived is going to be a female, or if they were both female, a more dominant female. The males don't seem to be as aggressive towards each other. But as I say, the more research that's being done on hyenas, the more we learn about them. And I think perceptions change, so it could be that more research is done and they actually find perhaps this isn't the case, because there's not, It's only, as I say, these things are believed because of what's been seen in the past. And we don't really get a chance to see what goes on inside the dens. But one thing we have definitely seen is the females will not nurse other cubs. She would chase away any cubs that try and drink from her. So I don't know if we want to maybe just have a quick look at the other female that's here. That's the one that I saw to begin with. So there, I'm assuming it's a female. Be interesting to see the interaction. Quite pale in colour. They do seem to get paler with age. Hi, Stephen. Stephen asking, how do you sex a hyena? It's actually very difficult. And I think even the professionals who work with hyenas also have been known to make mistakes until they've actually got the body. I think if they find a hyena and they do an autopsy and they actually find that perhaps it was actually thinking that it was one sex and it was actually the other, because it's so difficult, because the female actually has the same looking genitalia as the male, and that's because they've got so much testosterone in their body. And it's possible, they kind of believe that the testosterone levels increased to give the females an edge when it came to competition for food. So it makes them a lot more aggressive and sort of able to fight off males for food. And it could be that, as I say, as a side effect, they've actually, the genitalia has actually changed, so it does look like that of a male. And I think actually seeing hyenas mating would be very interesting, because you kind of see it described in books, and I just can't work out for the life of me how they actually do it. Hi, ML. Asking if the mother is looking like she needs a meal. She doesn't look like she's got a nice fat belly like the cats do, but hyenas tend to eat a lot more regularly than the cats, because the cats obviously work on this full and empty system, whereas the hyenas is a little bit more regular, because they do go for carcasses as well as hunting their own. So you don't really see huge bellies on them like you do with the cats. Only occasionally you might see that if they've had a really good meal from a big carcass. But I think also from this angle it's quite difficult to see as well. So that if I'm feeling the warmth from the sun, I'm actually going to take a layer off, hopefully without disturbing the hyenas. So I wouldn't be surprised if she moves soon, heading into more shade. So from snoozing hyenas to snoozing lions. Sounds like one of them has found a termite mound to chill out on.
They have indeed, Tara, and they are snoozing as good as any lion could. They are all flat. Besides the odd ear flick every now and then, it's all pretty quiet on this side. The eddies are slowly but surely heading in this direction. You can hear them crunching trees every now and then, but I think because they're feeding, it's taking a lot longer than they would normally move into this area, and so the lions are not too perturbed. They can hear the feeding, and when it gets a little bit closer, I would imagine that will cause them to then sit up again and watch what's going on. But for now, everybody is enjoying a rather fine morning cat nap. I suppose for them it's almost like being, 11 o'clock at night for them. That's what it is. They want to now have their nap, and so when your eyes can't stay open, this is what happens. But you can see all of them are fast asleep at this stage. There's not one that has got its head up. What I might do just now is actually just drive around and just see who else is here, if the rest of the pride is present, and how many we've got in total. But definitely can see 3 adult females, and then, like I say, there was the 6 cubs were around, so pretty sure the other 2 females must be on the other side of the mound. They're just hiding away. You can hear the ellies now starting to come. There's definitely a bit of crunching happening not too far away now, so hopefully they'll break through this little thicket, and it certainly will cause a bit of a stir amongst everybody, I would imagine. At the moment there's not any wind to speak of. There's not even a breeze. The leaves are not rustling, so there won't be a situation where lions or elephant will pick up the scent before they actually see each other, so they'll probably get quite close before the elephants notice the lions. The lions are well aware the ellies are there just from the noise that they've made by crunching, but the elephants I don't think will pick up these lions. And what will happen is, interestingly, if they come down the road, they'll first smell their tracks, because you can find where the tracks crossed, and the elephants have sensitive enough in terms of their smell to be able to pick up where these lions would have crossed, and that will already put them on an alert. And then from there, I wonder if they'll not just follow that scent a little bit just to see where these lions may be, and they might then pick them up and, like I say, come in and chase them off the mound itself. I'm hoping they don't, because ideally we would not want the Nkuhumas to really get up and move too much anywhere to the sort of west of us from where we are now, goes towards the Mulawati, and it gets really dense and not very pleasant, and the grass is long, and so if they get chased off the mound and get pushed down into that area, we're not going to see too much of them, and it's not going to be as pleasant as if they stay up on the mound. So what I'm hoping is the ellies come, the lions all pop up their head, they show us themselves, and the ellies just walk past us, and we can get the 2 of them in the same picture. That would be quite cool. I wonder how many actually, thinking about this, you guys can let me know, as hashtag Safari Live and on YouTube chat, and all the older viewers, how many of the big 5 have we had in one sighting before? Have we ever had all 5? Have we had 4? Have we had 3? It'd be interesting to know. Obviously we no longer show rhinos in any way, but there was a time when we did, and maybe back then we had a situation where we had all 5 on camera at once. It would be interesting to know. What is also very interesting is I've just heard on the radio that quarantine or Shavambalana, I don't know which one it is, they're not sure, is apparently mating with a female there. So there's a female in that area, which I would imagine must be in Kanyeni, being where it is, and given that Thandi was all the way on the other side, although it wouldn't be improbable if Thandi had crossed over the whole of Djuma and is now mating with a different male. It does happen. You'll find if females come into estrus, they'll often go and target different males outside of their territories, and we saw Thandi yesterday cross way out of her territory to mate, and I wonder if maybe they haven't shifted back to go and mate with a different male on the other side, just to ensure that if she does have cubs, that either male that pushes in will know that it's their cubs and will be protective of them. So it'll be interesting to know. Now, what have you got there? The paw, Senzo? Yeah. Now, if you look at that little cub, his mouth is moving a little bit. I wonder what it's dreaming about. Maybe it's dreaming about a big buffalo steak, because this sort of was licking its chops a little bit. Anyway, we'll carry on staying with them. Like I say, we'll wait for these ellies to arrive, and while we do that, I believe Tara's got a much better view of the hyenas, so let's go and have a look.
Yeah, we thought we'd try and reposition ourselves, so we went round the back of the hyena den just to see if we could get a view from the front, and we can see Ribbon's face now, and little Nkuhuma lying up. It's quite difficult to see where one hyena starts and the other ends. So you can see it every so often when Nkuhuma flicks her tail. So there you go, you can see her lying lengthways down her mum's body. Hi, Mike. Welcome on board from Richards Bay. Great to have you on board this morning, Mike. And I hope the weather is lovely down that side of the country. We actually do get the weather coming in from the eastern side, usually about a day later. No, Penny used to give us an update on when the rains were coming. But Mike wants to know how the hyena is classified. Is it a cat or is it a dog, and why? Well, originally when animals were classified, they kind of went on what the animal looked like and what it most resembled. So a lot of the animals were actually classified that shared similar traits. But as science progressed and our understanding of the anatomy increased, they started looking at the skeleton structure or the skeletal structure and internal organs and things like that. So they started changing the grouping slightly. And as the DNA and that sort of thing starts progressing, again, that's starting to change the classifications as well. So it's how science is progressing changes the classifications. So originally the hyena was classified in with the dogs, and it's really easy to see why. They do have those dog features. You know, they've got the big ears and they've got that long muzzle. Even the claws, they stay out, and they even have the two lobes in the back pad on their track, which is very similar to that of the dog. So there's a lot of morphological features that make them look like a dog. So I can totally understand that classification. But once they started looking into the skull and things like that, they actually found that the hyena shares a lot more with the cats. So what's called the auditory meatus, which is in the ear. In the cats it's a ring, in the dogs it's a tube, so the hyena actually has that. The auditory bullae, so it's the bumps at the back of the skull. In the cats, I've just got to try and remember which way round it is. I think in the cats it's actually separate from what's called the para-occipital process, whereas in the dogs it's actually fused. So there's all these differences in the skull. Maybe if I can get my hands on a skull I might be able to show you these things, because it's quite difficult to really explain in words. But let's say it's a lot of skull similarities. Oh, that female's woken up and I think she's finding... sorry, I keep calling it female, I shouldn't really do that. I'm just taking it for granted because it is here. Looking for shade now, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ribbon actually goes to try and find shade soon, because that sun is really starting to get some warmth behind it now, which is absolutely beautiful. Hi, Dara. Dara wanting to know how long the pups or cubs of the hyena can be nursed for, and that can be around 18 months, so it's quite a long period of time for them to actually be nursing. They can start having meat around the 8-month-old mark, but they'd only really be lucky enough to experience meat maybe after a year old, once they go out with mum on a scavenging mission. Yeah, so just to confirm, so the auditory bullae is divided by divided into the front and back by what's called a septum. So it is divided in the cats and it's together in the dogs. So it's just let's say it's just those little details that I've just got to try and remember. And I think we're gonna... Oh, hello. Sorry, just missing what was being said there. But yeah, as I say, so I think hyenas, it's quite an unusual society, because if you look at other animals that do group together, they actually will suckle each other's young. So if you look at the lions, the females will suckle their daughters or their aunts young, so they are related. Even elephants have been known to suckle other calves from their relations, but with the hyenas they don't. It's very much an independent society in that sense, but they will den together, they will hunt together. So it's really amazing to me that, you know, that there isn't this allo suckling, as it's called, or support for the offspring. It's very much on their own. And the offspring, if they are born to a female that's high ranking, they will also be high ranking, and they will carry that through into adulthood. But if they're low ranking, then chances are they're going to stay low ranking. So there's a lot of competition there. And as I say, even amongst the cubs for the milk. Hi, Langston, asking if the rest of the clan is hunting, or is it just these 3 hyenas? Now, the rest of the clan will have their own mounds, so if there's females with cubs, they might be utilising other mounds, but we just don't know where those mounds are. So if they group together, they will contact each other at night, so they do that woo to try and contact each other. And if they decide to group together and go hunting, then they could go off hunting. But we haven't really seen much evidence of the hyenas here hunting. They do tend to be more scavengers. I remember seeing actually impala on the quarantine area, and they were looking down towards Gowrie Dam. And I think we were hearing alarm calls, so the impala were just sort of checking out to see what the problem was. And along came a hyena. And he just was sauntering up, and he just also stopped a few metres away from the impala, but the impala hadn't noticed that the hyena was there because he was so intent on what was going on. But the hyena also looked down towards the dam, and then the impala just sort of turned around and clocked the hyena and realised the hyena was there. And he kind of did a little side jump, but the hyena kind of also just looked at the impala and going, well, what's your problem? It was quite hysterical. And yet, as I say, in other areas the hyenas might actually hunt the impala. Interesting question that, Samantha. How long can a hyena survive without eating? I'd say probably quite a few days. Like humans, I mean, we can survive quite a number of days without eating. Have you just seen another cub? Oh, yes! Oh, look at that. Oh, that's a very young cub. Oh, well spotted. Yeah, I think there is 2. I think you're right. I thought I saw another head there. So we do have a second mother here. Oh, look at that. Now they are definitely under 4 months old. They could be about a month, maybe a month and a half. They're still very black. Oh, how special. So I was right, she is a female. And that is mother. Oh, how special. So I think Ribbon is a mid-ranking female. It'd be interesting to see if this other female, where she sits. So the only way I can really tell is when the 2 adults interact. So whoever is submissive towards the other one will then see what that rank is. So if they show submission, they're lower ranking. If the other animal shows submission, then they're going to be higher ranking. So that's really going to be interesting. Oh, that is beautiful. Just seeing those little eyes and ears popping out behind the tree every so often. I think they are enjoying being out in the sun. So they obviously were hidden away in the hole, and that's what they do. They'll hide away in the termite mounds and wait for Mum to call them out, especially at that age. As they get older, they'll start being brave and coming out by themselves. Hi, Sammy Jane, asking if the cub will kill each other at this age. Probably not. By the time they get to this age, they seem to have sort of gotten used to each other, so I believe it's less likely that they'll kill each other at this age. So it could be that we've got two males there. It could be a male and a female. Oh, one's, I think, climbing on the back of its mum. I'd love to actually try and go back to where we were. We might be able to see them a little bit better. That is just so special. Oh! Let's say it could be that they're two females. Let's say it's not unheard of that two females actually do make it to adulthood. It's just less likely. But like I say, if there's more research done, they might find that actually there's another reason why the females might not make it. Oh, just poking its head over, sorry. I know you were wanting to have a look at the other one, but that was just so cute. Just poking its head round the tree again. And obviously at this age, everything is fascinating. They're going to be learning about the world around them. Biting branches, biting Mum. At some stage, there will get to be an interaction between Nkuhuma and them. Absolutely magic. Well, as I say, we are live. We have absolutely no idea what we're going to find from day to day. Absolutely fantastic to actually come and check the hyena den out. And as I say, to find two new cubs. I think this is the first time they've actually been seen here. I did wonder why there was another hyena here, but absolutely fantastic. I wasn't expecting this. Brilliant. Absolutely wonderful. So I think we're going to try and reposition ourselves. I think we're going to drive around the back of the termite mound again and sort of come in from the front and just see if we can't get a nice view of those cubs maybe playing on Mum. So we're going to drive slowly. We'll take it easy, and as I say, we'll come in from the other side because I think we should be able to get a view of them. So I think if Tristan is still with the lions, hopefully you might get another view of those while we reposition ourselves, and yeah, see if we can catch the antics of the little ones.
How exciting is that we've got two new hyena cubs. I'm so happy for Tara that she found them. Really is very, very cool. Now we're on the other side of the termite mound, and we've got one of the lionesses who seems as though she's got a rather nasty wound on her ear at the moment. She obviously got bitten at some point, so her right ear's got a bit of a cut in it, which is not very pleasant at all, and seems as though she's getting quite annoyed by all of the flies that keep landing on it. And then just up from her is Amber Eyes. She's sitting on the other side, well, just in the shade here behind a tree. So this is Amber Eyes over there. So she's there as well. So all of them are here with all the cubs. They're all scattered around on the mound, but everybody's fairly relaxed. Shame is that sore, my girl. This female's busy just scratching on her ear there. Oh, and you've got a very nasty wound on your tummy. Oopsie. So you can see how she's groomed it raw. Look at that. You see, that's not very pleasant at all. There's a big hole in her stomach. Where her mouth is now, behind that is a really nasty hole that she's got, which at least she's keeping it clean, but it doesn't look very nice at all. There you go. You can just see it by her nose as she moves there, where she's licking. There's the wound that I was talking about. Now, of course, she will be alright with that. It's not going to be life-threatening, but it certainly is going to be very uncomfortable for this female. And I wonder what's caused it. It almost looks like a hole. Maybe they tangled with a buffalo, and a buffalo got its horn into her midriff there. It wouldn't surprise me at all. It's that kind of hole. Shame, my girl. You must be careful when you're hunting. She seems to be okay though, otherwise. She's still grooming herself and is in good condition, so it's not something that's affecting her too much. And I wonder what happened though. Like I say, it doesn't look like a male lion wound or anything like that, although she does have a few bite marks on her neck area and on her ear. I wonder if that wasn't from mating. It would be interesting if she was mating, because this is one of the lionesses that theoretically is still got these dependent cubs with her. This is not the younger lioness or the Amber Eyes, so she still has those cubs which would be dependent on her. So I'm surprised if she is mating, but she definitely has quite a few bite wounds around her neck area, and like I say, on the ear. It could have been a fight over food as well. When there's food around, there is no love lost between lions, and they will go after one another, and it can get quite violent around a carcass, but I'm not sure. There we go. Nikki, you're asking if I have a favorite lion pride or coalition. Well, I think in this area, for me, would be the Nkuhumas by far. I really do love the Nkuhuma Pride. They are fantastic pride. In terms of a favorite lion, I think in lioness terms would be Floppy Ear from the Southern Pride. And we were asking earlier about highlights of lions and my best lion sightings. I completely forgot, and how I forgot I'm not quite sure, but of Floppy Ear, and when she led us to her brand new cub that was not even a week old, it was a few days old. So she's always got a special place in my heart. She's an incredible lioness. She was big, and the fact that she came from a different pride and basically took over the Southern Pride and became the sort of matriarch, if you want to call it. She was the one that the Southern Pride used to follow around everywhere. Meant that she was quite something, and she really was an interesting lioness to follow. So she's my favorite lioness, and she is still alive. And then in terms of males, I'm not 100% sure. I really did enjoy the Majingaland Coalition, but I haven't seen them for so long that it's difficult to say. If we had to look at the Birminghams that we see now, I would say my favorite Birmingham would be Nena. He's really very, very cool. I like him. He's got a good look about him, and Nsuku is probably next on that list. In terms of favorite, I'm just trying to think of all the male lions I've seen. I actually think probably my most favorite male lion out of all of them was a male called Solo, which was a male that was born to the Solala Pride, who ended up going into the Kruger. He was an incredible animal, and he was one of the bigger males that I've seen in the Sabi Sands. But you can hear lots of oxpeckers still going. I'm sure there's some impala or something around, and that's why the lioness keeps looking in that direction where the oxpeckers are calling, in case they spotted something like a buffalo. But alas, I don't think there's any buffalo around, certainly no tracks for them. Right, well, I think we're going to leave our Nkuhuma Pride now, because they are starting to all fall asleep and going flat. The elephants have actually moved. They've distributed a little bit further to our east, so I'm going to carry on and see what else I can find. It's been really good to have caught up with the Nkuhuma Pride, and let's go back and get a little look at those two cubs with Tara.
Welcome back, everybody. We did manage to change positions, so we on the western side of the den, and I actually think we're the first vehicle that these cubs have seen, because they actually had a look at us and then dived back into the hole. So mother doesn't seem to be too fussed. Thought I'd wait until the helicopter flew over. But yeah, she's not phased at all. She was falling asleep, but as I say, the cubs were like, "Oh, what's that?" So I'm hoping if we sit here quietly, they might actually come out again. She looks like a very sleepy lady. She's kind of doing that bungee necking. Oh, I think that's Nkuhuma. She's finished her breakfast. No, apparently she's still hungry. Hello, beautiful girl. I'm saying a girl. Could be a little boy. But she does seem to be quite bold. Hi, Gillian, asking what all the wetness is. And I think it was actually the cubs when they came out, they went to the toilet. Obviously it wouldn't be very nice to be toileting inside the hole. So it's not quite in the right position for the female. Although I suppose she could have gone to the toilet before she lay down, but I'm pretty sure it would be the cubs when they came out. So, just going back to the question about cats earlier with the, as I say, with the skull as well. The last thing that is the difference between, oh, here we go. Just a little bit of patience. There we go. So yes, the ear bole or auditory bole and the parotoccipital process is not independent in the cats, but it is in the dogs. That was the third thing. Hopefully at some stage I'll be able to find a skull and show you that. But this is so precious. There we go. We've got one cub actually feeding, and just like Nkuhuma was, so lying along the belly. I believe that is the dominant position. Are we going to see a little bit of a scrap between the two, I wonder? So the other position is lying in the opposite direction between the female legs. Oh, everybody is crooning over these two, and it is absolutely delightful. I think that was a Grego Mora saying cute little bear creatures. Now I really do think these cubs have not spent a lot of time outside the hole, because every little noise they are actually darting back into the safety of the hole. So that was a Grego waybird that just called there, which chased them into the hole. Testing its jaws out on Mum's paw. So I think They're about a month old, maybe less. But they are definitely experiencing the world and all its sounds. But probably one of the first times, I'd say. Hi Chris. Chris Rogue saying Gwen, who's, I believe she's a very low ranking female, was showing the same denning behaviour a couple of weeks ago. So it could well be that she's going to have her own cubs as well. Yeah, that one definitely seems to be a little bit more boisterous. Oh, is this one Gwen? Ah, okay. So apparently, I think everyone's saying that this one is Gwen, so she is quite a low ranking female. Oh. How precious is that? Sure. And I really hope, if any viewers who are watching don't like hyena, I'm really hoping this is melting your hearts. So I'm hearing the ladies back in FC are absolutely loving the sighting here, as I'm sure everybody back home is. And I say, just giving them a little bit of time just to get used to us being here. You can see they're looking over less and less now. We are quite far back from the den, but see is really behind the tree on the opposite side of the den. That's one of the machines actually making a slightly different noise, and you can see the cubs actually just picked it up. And you can hear I'm interchanging between cub and pup, because like we said earlier, they were classified as dogs and now classified with the cats instead. Ooh, I'm still attached, Mum. I wonder if the other one is looking like it wants to eat, but still not sure. How do I get there? Let's climb over, Mum. And there was a comment coming in, I just missed who it was from, but saying that the adults are maybe not so much to look at, Joe, but the cubs are definitely. Now they will gain their spots about 4 months old. Yeah, you can see, okay, so that's definitely the submissive one. And there does seem to be a slight size difference actually. So again, the dominant one taking up the position along the belly. So I'm kind of expecting the second one either will go at 90 degrees from it or at 180 degrees, so it lies between mother's legs. Now they can actually nurse for long periods of time as well, around 30 minutes or so sometimes. So they do have quite a long drinking session. Now to ID the hyenas, we do look at the ears. So I've just made a note of the pattern in the ear, but also you can look at the spots on the coat, as with other animals that have patterns. But you can see with, well, hopefully you saw with Nkuhuma, it's quite fluffy compared to the adults, and they are when they're young, and as they get older that fur starts to fall out. So they all get shorter, and it does seem to be that some of the very old hyenas are quite pale and have very short hair, or almost looking bald in places. You can hear the Cape turtle dove calling just above them there, and obviously these cubs have heard that a lot. They're not even showing the slightest of interest in the Cape turtle dove. So while the cubs settle down, we're going to head back to Tristan and see what else he's caught up with.
We're live. Oh, sorry. Apparently we're live. Now, I don't have any radio comms. I don't know why. Maybe my radio is not working very well. Hello, Andres. How are you? Very well, thank you. Good.
What's happening now?
Nkuhuma's straight north from here. Those Fogfight Ingwes are coming south on Chitwa Plains driveway side. And then Tamba was here. And that's it. Cool. So we're just saying hello to all of the guys quickly and seeing what's happening. Now, unfortunately, I don't know why my comms are not working. It seems as though this is the way things go sometimes. Wendy's yesterday had no spotlight and then had no radio, and now we have a situation where we don't have any comms. So it's the way it goes. Now, I'm down here in the Mulawati because apparently there was a brief visual of Tumba somewhere here, so I wanted just to see if there was any sign of him, but I can't see anything. He must have gone south towards the sort of southern side of Gari Main and into the Mulawati area there, so we'll come back this afternoon and try and find him. It was worth just coming past. We were on our way back to the lodge, and then I thought, well, I'll just come and have a little look. It would have been a perfect way to end our safari if we had had a little Tumba as well. I'll check quickly at Tundams in case he didn't come this way. I don't think so, though. I'm pretty sure he's south of us at the moment. But like I say, let's see now. There's no tracks that I can see coming down this way at all. Now, Senzo, you might have to talk to me because I can't hear anything, so you might have to be my ears at some point. Now, let's see. No, there's no sign that I can see of him in this area. I'll just quickly cross the dam wall and just check if he's not on the other side, but I don't think he will be here. There's no tracks that I can see anywhere. No, I don't think so. Must still be south of the boundary. Well, it's okay. He's at least flirting around that boundary. I know Tara had him there yesterday, so hopefully we will be able to find him somewhere in this general vicinity this afternoon. I'm hoping that with the heat that we might have today, that he'll move up towards Twin Dams and come and have a little drink. But he definitely hasn't come this way, that's for sure. We would have seen quite clear tracks coming out from Baboon Pan side. There's also been 2 or 3 vehicles that have driven past that said they haven't seen his tracks coming back out, so definitely not here. Oh well, it's okay. Otherwise, Twin Dams is looking good, it's looking full. There's no sign of anything else though. I thought maybe we'd find some sign of impalas or kudus or nyalas coming for a drink, or even the warthogs that hang around here, but alas, nothing this morning. Maybe a little bit later this afternoon we shall. Now, Senzo is trying to offer me his earpiece. Don't worry, Senzo, there's not really much we can do, because if I'm not hearing out of my section here, it must be a problem with the mic jack, so that's unfortunately going to be a bit of an issue. We'll just try and see if we can't have a little look and check our mic while we're driving and see if we can't fix something here. It might be something to do with that, although I can hear the game drive radio, which means that it's my FC radio. Now, I believe Chantal is talking to me. Chantal, I can hear you ever so faintly now, so if you can just repeat what you were saying very slowly, and hopefully I'll be able to pick it up. Now, there we go. I managed to hear Chantal, which is fantastic. Is that it says, well, I sort out my comms, which I shall try to do, Chantal. I'll try and see what's happening. And while I do that, let's go back to Tara and see how those cute little cubs are doing.
I hear you guys snuck up on Tristan. Bad views. Welcome back. And they have settled down. I'd love to move and see if we could get another view of them, but I'm just worried if I turn on the vehicle, they might just dive back into the hole, and it might take them a little while to come out again. So I thought we might as well stay here and just let them get used to the vehicle a little bit more. I think they both have settled down to drinking. I'd say that's the dominant one. And it will also depend on which teat actually has more milk as well, so that'll be the teat that the more dominant one will drink from. I don't know if I don't think we heard them before, but they were sort of giving a little bit of a contact call as they came out the hole the first time. We might have just been a little bit too far away, but it was kind of a little yelp. I say hyenas are quite vocal, and obviously the most distinctive call that we associate with the hyenas is that high-pitched laughing. And that's when they get excited, especially when there is a carcass. Now, apparently, I think I might have been putting our hyenas down a little bit, because Craig just told me that one of the hyenas was seen taking down a wildebeest out on the quarantine area. So they might be... Oh, here comes Nkuhuma. See what the cubs do with Nkuhuma. That will also tell us if she has met them before, but Mother doesn't seem to be too worried, so I think they have met before. And Nkuhuma, I think probably around the 8-9 month old mark. And of course, so much more interesting to play with. Oh no, milk's more interesting. Now it's not likely Nkuhuma's going to be sharing the same hole as those two. I think she would possibly be using a different hole. And as I say, within those holes there's going to be a little den right at the back that only the cubs can actually get into. They'll actually make it themselves, and they will actually bury themselves right in there, just in case there's any predators around that could dig or get into that big hole. So things like jackal, maybe wild dog. So they can keep nice and safe out of sight. Unfortunately, it's not going to keep them safe from snakes, so they are still vulnerable to those. But I think let's sneak up on Tristan again, see if he's found you anything, and we'll be back shortly.
No, I'm just kidding. You didn't catch me out this time. I heard all of it this time. I'm back. Radio is fixed. Were you stressing there, Senzo? Senzo was stressing in the back that I hadn't heard them again. But anyway, we were... Sorry, Senzo. I didn't mean to make you stress there. Now, I believe when last I was driving, Chantal fed me a question, which was from James. So, James, you are wondering what more we could do to better conserve lions in the world. Well, James, I think for a start we could take the fact that they are being poached a little bit more seriously. Well, particularly those that make the rules, and I'm talking about the various different international bodies that deal with the trade in wildlife and what appendix they are added to, and start getting them onto a tighter, more controlled situation, so that they are not abused the way that they are now, and particularly with the sort of poaching for the bones and the skins and all of those kind of things, as well as then the trophy hunting side of things. So I think that's probably a first point to start. Secondly, we've got a major problem in that lions and people do not mix well, and we've got a lot of reserves where there's massive amounts of encroachment happening. The human population is just growing at a rate that is too big, and they all need space, and a human will then push into an area that potentially they shouldn't be in, and they then take over a small section of a lion's area, and the lions then come and kill their livestock and they kill the lions. So human wildlife conflict, and especially when it comes to lions, is massive. And so there needs to be very strict rules around national parks and protected areas, and they then need to be patrolled incredibly well and made sure that people are not trying to get in and out. The problem with that is that it costs a lot of money to do these kind of things. Anti-poaching is never a cheap affair, and so there is a number of sort of problems in that, and a lot of the places where lions are occurring are not particularly wealthy countries that can afford to spend massive amounts of money on protecting their national parks. So that's probably our two biggest problems. One is that they're not protected enough on an international level when it comes to the trade in them, and the second side of it is that a lot of the areas where lions occur just financially cannot afford to protect them as well as they should. And so those are the two areas that we really need to probably concentrate on in order to try and keep things balanced and to try and keep populations of lions around. We've already lost such a large majority of the population that, you know, now it's just about stemming the flow and actually just trying to allow for safer places and reintroductions into areas that have lost lions once they have been secured and made safe again. So that's my take on it. I'm sure Tara would be a great person to chat about this with as well. She's got so much knowledge about conservation. Ali as well. So between the two of them, they would also probably have a lot to say. So in that sort of thought process, let's go back to Tara with her little hyena cubs and see what she thinks about the global lion crisis and what should be done.
Oh, welcome back everybody. Looks like Nkuhuma's settling down in the shade there, chewing on a bit of a branch. The cubs have very much settled into their breakfast, with Nkuhuma watching on. You can't still be hungry, Nkuhuma. But yes, unfortunately the lions definitely do need to be conserved. Unfortunately, there is a lot of problems with human conflict, as well as with a lot of the carnivores, and I think it's definitely going to be worth chatting more about it on the next drive as to why we need carnivores. But certainly conservation is very important for the lions, because their numbers aren't as great as what is considered. But it has been absolutely wonderful drive this morning. I think you guys have been so lucky seeing the lions on World Lion Day, and obviously having the elephants, and of course seeing some new arrivals, which is absolutely fantastic. And that is the beauty of what we do here, Safari Live, right from the bush, and seeing these things as they unfold is fantastic. So much here. So do try and join us if you can, wherever you are in the world. I'm sure these guys will be popping in on them later on this afternoon as well. Take care, everybody.